I'll be damned. We're one sleep away from a game, and my gosh, a lot of activities went down in West Virginia. It is SNL, Andrew Larker, Cody Stutes, finally in Houston. And we'll take you behind just kind of what a wild scene it was yesterday leaving West Virginia. We'll talk about how it got even wilder when it comes to Texans news. We'll give you the nuggets that you need, the tidbits from the scrimmage. And we'll also try to look ahead to tomorrow. There is a game and what to watch for in that area. But what did we learn about the Texans in West Virginia? What were the most important takeaways from what went down there?
To me, I would say that the biggest thing for me is I feel like the offense is headed in the right direction. It's just moving a little slow. And I don't know exactly when that's going to, tick up, but there's still a lot of work to be done on this offense. They put together a couple of nice days on the ground with the Tuesday work and then the scrimmage. So that's headed in the right direction. Like, they're going down a path where I can see them succeed. They still got a little bit of ways to go. And part of that is CJ Stroud maximizing what he can do and being a bit more consistent. We saw in the scrimmage a couple of hiccups that were, if there was tennis, you'd call it an unforced error. So there's still a little bit of that for me. And then, I think we just confirmed and continue to know that this defense has not only a really good 11 guys, I guess, 10 now because of an injury, but a really good 10 guys, but there's some depth on this team that you could trust and you could put in some unique positions and really feel good about them as well.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is that two guys that have probably been dismissed to a certain area by many, they seem to be alive and well, and they seem to potentially have pretty pivotal roles on the roster. I'm talking about Christian Harris and Dameon Pierce. We saw them in uniform. We saw them moving full speed. They didn't make them scrimmage early. That would have probably been a little bit too early given where they were in the process, but they're moving full speed. And I think as you look at the shaping up of this roster, it's kind of intriguing, kind of exciting to think that maybe we see Joe Mixon, who knows? But Christian Harris and Dameon Pierce we're going to see. And they just watching them and the limited stuff they've done, it feels like there are big roles for them on this team.
They're there to be captured by both of them. I would tell you, I have more confidence that Harris can capture that large role than Pierce, but with none of these running backs having separated themselves to a point where you feel like, oh man, that guy's awesome, Dameon Pierce could absolutely not only play his way onto this roster, but into a spot on the depth chart when it comes to the running back spot.
All right, so we're gonna go through the scrimmage on the. Should we start with it or should we do it at the end?
Let's start with the scrimmage, and then we'll get the hardcore folks. We'll see who's hardcore to stick around.
Okay, I think it's probably a definite thing. So, as the scrimmage began, they had a little half-ass 7-on-7. There wasn't really even defense involved in this. So I don't even know that anything stuck out in 7-on-7.
I don't think I wrote anything down for 7-on-7. In fact, I think I wrote 7-on-7 down, that I crossed it out.
Yeah, there were dump offs. There was no defense. So it was concluded with a Miami Fairbairn 30-yard field goal. So the scrimmage started with a kickoff. Xavier Hutchinson was actually returning the kick. So I don't know if they like him in that role or not, but he was one of the stars of the day. Covering the kick, you had about the guys that you would expect to be covering kicks. You had Yeast, who maybe has a little bit of an opportunity. You had Marks. You had Hanson, Tremon Smith, and then you had Arnett and Mollett returning. No Nick Chubb, no Cam Robinson, no Dylan Horton, and no Harris or Pierce in the scrimmage.
Correct. The Hutchinson kick return is fascinating to me because that's not really been like we say it all the time. He plays special teams. That's not something he's really done on special teams in his time here in Houston. And I wonder if that's maybe a part of the roster crunch conversation where, hey, can Xavier Hutchinson return kicks for us if we don't keep Braxton Berrios? Can we have him and maybe Jalen Knoll back there return kicks, or Hutchinson and Pierce, which would be both depth players behind starters at different positions. So it's a fascinating thing to monitor here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, so we get to first team offense. I'll let you take off here. Take it here. The offensive line that we'd seen since Cam Robinson went down, the same, except we did have a little bit of juice on the right side. So Juice Scruggs getting some first team reps. Seems like they're giving him every opportunity to make the squad.
It certainly seems that way. And so the left to right, and Ariante Harrison was the left tackle, Laken Tomlinson was the left guard, Jake Andrews was the center, Juice Scruggs, as Landry mentioned, was the right guard, and then Titus Howard was the right tackle. And this was the first team offense out there to start a practice. Here we go. Start of the scrimmage. Nico Collins over the middle on a little short pass. Then Jalen Petrie blitzed from the edge, and the offensive line just never saw it. The offense never saw it, and he got a sack. So on third down, who's Mr. Third Down right now for this Texans team? It's Christian Kirk. And so CJ Stroud finds Kirk for the first down on a nice – I liked this play even though it didn't really gain a lot. It was a play action with Dare Ogunbowale back there, and Stroud turned around, and Ogunbowale was wide open right there in the middle of the field, just 3-4 yards past the line of scrimmage, just rocketed it to him. Just didn't let the pressure, didn't worry about anything else. That guy was open. It's there. The defense is giving it to me. Take it. That's something we didn't see CJ Stroud do as much, and we kind of begged for it last year. So I thought that was a little important piece. Petrie had a tackle for a loss. He just blew past Xavier Hutchinson, who just didn't nail it on the block. Then Xavier Hutchinson makes up for it. He catches a big slant over the middle. Henry To'o fell down trying to chase him, and it was great route from Hutchinson. Good find by Stroud. Let's see. Had a run to the left, no gain. Togiai's in there for a stop. Then a nice run from Woody Marks. Third and long. They go to Dalton Schultz. It's incomplete. Kamari Lassiter was all over the field. I feel like he defended everybody at one point.
He was, and he hit his head a couple times. He had to hit the head celebration a couple. He even got some dab from Caserio on a Nico fade to the end zone. Nick Caserio is usually pretty even keel during practice, but even old Nick had to dap up old Kamari Lassiter. I'll say this: I think Kamari Lassiter, there's a chance that there's at least a discussion in 3 years, and I might be overreacting significantly, but there might be a discussion about, is he the best corner on the team? Like they're different styles. Derek Stingley's just the ultimate pro. Like, you don't even mess with him. But I think the arrow, I could see Kamari Lassiter being a top 20 corner after this season. Like, us having a conversation about, is Kamari Lassiter a top 20 corner? I could easily see that. I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, I think. And the way that he's built, the way that he plays, he's such a complete player. It's not one dimensional. Like, he's got ball skills. He's physical in the run. He can play inside, but he's more outside. Like, just everything he can do. I think we could be talking about a guy who's maybe like a top 20 corner after this season.
We've seen him have so much success against Nico Collins in training camp. And if you can consistently have success against Nico Collins, you're going to have consistent success against a lot of wide receivers in the NFL. And yeah, I love what Lassiter's put together in training camp. And you're absolutely right. In the range of possible outcomes, that conversation could happen in a few seasons. So that third down, incomplete field goal from Kaimi Fairbairn is good. And then you and I had a laugh about this. I wrote down 27 punt return. Great return. And I looked at you and I said, why don't they put Woody Marks on punt return more often? And you go, I think that was Miles Bryant. I go, yeah, why don't they put Miles Bryant on punt return more often? Because they have
it looked like, I know you're not tackling, but it looked like he would have been able to bounce it out. There was a little bit of over pursuit by Dare. I mentioned Miles Bryant getting in the punt return line. By the way, Miles Bryant had an awesome day. He had a couple of pass breakups, one on Stroud, one on Mills. He had the punt return. Miles Bryant playing really, 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 really well.
From that moment, Petrie and Mollett were both hurt, and Miles Bryant got that crack at that slot cornerback, nickelback spot. He's really had just a phenomenal camp for the expectation of what he is, and I'd be pretty surprised if he's not on the roster.
Yeah, it would be pretty surprising, especially given that, he can go inside like they appear to value. So then we had a the second team offense come out. The offensive line was Zach Thomas, Jalen Thomas, Jared Patterson, Ingram, and Blake Fisher left to right. There was a dump off to Jawar Jordan, not much. Then a misfire to Watson, kind of on the left corner. Then the previously mentioned Miles Bryant PBU. Then you had a flag on a Jawar Jordan run. Then they ran, I called it a Nico play. They ran kind of a little quick bubble screen to Justin Watson. Maybe a Robert Woods play would be more appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hey, anytime you can throw a screen to the fifth wide receiver, you have to do it. Signed, Bobby Slowick.
Then went on third down. We had Mollett. He was stride for stride with Kirk, and that created a massive celebration by the defense. Mollett seems to have like a pretty nasty edge to him that it seems like there's a lot of respect from the DBs for whatever reason. And then Fairbairn kicked the field goal, and it was good. We then had a TV timeout, so this was like a full scrimmage. You had Noel and Mechie back at kickoff. There was a flag, and then they kicked it to Noel, and he got to about the 30, about where you would expect. So then we get the first team drive 2.
That flag from Kaimi Fairbairn tried to, kind of skip it into the front part of the landing zone, and he just didn't get close. It was a bad kick, so they reset it and put it back out there. So
let's go to the soup before we get to the other stuff. Let's go some soup. Shout out to the soup. You ain't never hate. Swarm. He says, like Kate Kaiser say, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition because CJ Gardner-Johnson did not tear his ACL and can return this season. All right, we'll get into that in a second. It was a funny ass time.
For about 30 minutes there, it was cursing and there was no ammunition.
Also on the soup, Logan Taylor says, I hope the injury is less severe and not a torn ACL. According to Rappaport's not. Wiggle says, can I get undrafted free agent power rankings? Any excite you? No. I mean, you can't, no undrafted free agent is really doing much for me.
Yeah, this hasn't been the most stellar undrafted free agent crew, and a lot of times they just got added to positions like Casey Osai and Jackson Woodard got added to a position that already had a tremendous amount of depth at linebacker. So there wasn't much there. Tafuna's at defensive tackle, but everybody's better than him at defensive tackle right now because they've all played in the NFL before. Eli Cox he got started late and he was already way behind, so he didn't have a crack at that thing. Yeah, so it's not been a good undrafted free agent class, but that happens if you have a good draft class and put a couple good draft classes together and make some veteran signings.
Correct. Trill Kick X says AR-15 can't pick up the most basic blitz in the NFL. We already knew that.
I felt bad for him because Chase Daniel did like a little video about it and was like, I should have done this. Can't believe this. And then Kurt Warner did a 10-minute dissection of the play and why Anthony Richardson this and that. And I was like, good Lord.
Yeah, that definitely
I mean, that's what happens with Anthony Richardson from time to time.
ESG Soccer says no rafting, but I hope you guys enjoyed West Virginia. Always will be home. Shout out to you, my friend. So let's get to the second possession, and we'll talk about what a crazy day. The CJ Gardner-Johnson, everything else. We'll get into the Jimmie Ward arrest, all that. But let's get into the second series for the first team offense.
So Tim Settle blew up Juice Scruggs pretty bad, but I had Mills able to get the ball out to Mechie for the first down. And that was the play where CJ Gardner-Johnson got hurt.
Yes, you looked up and you thought maybe it was Mechie down, but it was CJ Gardner-Johnson. Then the Texans gathered 1, 2, 3 family, and they went back to practice.
Yeah, Azeez Al-Shire fills a hole that the offensive line set up, and no gain for Woody Marks. This was a really good catch by Stover. Stroud hit him, and it's kind of behind him, and he was able to get loose from Petrie and rip it out of the air. It was 3rd and medium. I had it down as a coverage sack / Danielle Hunter sack. And that was it for the first team. They ran him off, and Tommy Townsend, my goodness, people on the sidelines were losing it. He had a coffin corner punt where I think it went out at like the 4 or 5 yard line. It was a great punt, great coverage. Tremont Smith caught it like the 4 or 5 yard line over on the left side of the field. Great job by Townsend.
Yeah, then we get a little bit of a 2-minute break. So they're simulating commercial breaks. Then Stroud's 3rd series, Woody Marks stuffed up the middle, an out to Nico for a moderate gain, and then a slant to Nico, incomplete.
Stroud just blew this throw. Just terrible job.
Yeah, and that he did that a couple times. Then we got the punt, Berrios on the punt return, and Davis Mills, a hell of a bootleg, like just a hell of a bootleg and perfect dime to Xavier Hutchinson for the first touchdown of the game. Probably the play of the day, I would say.
Oh, absolutely.
And just a good toss from Davis Mills to Xavier Hutchinson.
One little note about that play and the offensive line there. Juice Scruggs was the center, which he has not played a lot of center in training camp, but Juice Scruggs was the center, and Jarrett Patterson was the left guard in that alignment, which was pretty interesting to me, just seeing the versatility of some of those guys that could be a starter, might be a depth piece. Yeah, that play action rollout touchdown was just perfect design, perfect execution. Hutchinson turned the Jets on. There you go.
And they let Mills flip it and go again. You had a play action, lovely toss to Jordan. Then Jordan out of bounds. Another pass breakup by Miles Bryant. This one on the right side. Other one was on the left. Then a run for nothing. And then a sack. And then, hey, CJ Gardner-Johnson goes down. And that creates opportunity. And there's guys on this team that are in positions of strength that just you don't think they have a chance to make the squad. But Russ Yeast, who's been a nasty mofo all camp, gets an interception. And next man up, I guess you say, if you really want to do it, good for him.
Yeah, Mills tried to drive it deep to Brevin Jordan, and Russ Yeast was just right into the passing lane, and it's a real good job by him. And there's not a lot of bodies at safety, so I mean, Russ Yeast, he's got every bit of candidacy. I mean, especially if they want somebody a little edge to him at that position.
Then we go to a little bit of CJ. He missed. Oh man, like this was red zone.
Oh.
Nico Collins wide open. Like you got to take something off of it. He tries to kind of aim it, even though nobody's there, and he overshoots Nico. Nico, I thought he did a good job even getting his hands on it, and he missed that.
Nico had right
corner of the end zone,
twist and turn, and he just. It was the most for sure, no questions TD of the day.
Yeah, it was.
And then the throw wasn't good enough, and Nico got his hands on it and haul it in.
This was bad. And then he missed Dalton Schultz, a little bit tougher, but in the same area of the end zone. You could tell CJ was a little bit frustrated. Maybe the body language working, not put to the best practice in that time. Then you had a slant that was for Nada.
One quick thing on the Schultz throw, Titus Howard just whipped Will Anderson on that play. I thought that was one of the best reps Titus Howard had all day long.
Then you had a Jordan bounce out, Nada, a misfire in the back of the end zone high, and then a throwaway that may have been intentional grounding in a game. I don't know that he was outside the tackle box, but the pocket collided, and CJ just kind of threw it away, but it looked like it could have been grounding. Then they punted to Knoll, and they kept Stroud on the field. So Mills got consecutive series, and then they go to Stroud.
Yeah, and they I guess they called that halftime at that point. So post halftime, Juice Scruggs came out at left guard and Ed Ingram came out at right guard. And we mentioned those couple of misses there before the little break. I thought Stroud had one of his better throws of the day, had a bunch of pressure coming down on him, and he kind of just angled his upper body and flipped it out to Brevin Jordan, who was on a crosser. It was really good pass for first down. Then we get to see something that I believe we're going to see a lot of over the next couple of days.
All right, before we do that, though, on the super chat, Cade
Swarm
said, just tuning in, what's the status on CJ Gardner? Any update on read, how did the rushing attack look today? Well, they were off today, so they're traveling to Minnesota. Trust me, the CJ Gardner-Johnson and all the stuff that went on with that, it's going to get 30 minutes. And when you factor in what our experience was and what other stuff was going on, it's going to get a solid 30. Promise you.
Yeah.
And you won't want to miss it. You won't want to miss it.
Overall, I thought the rushing attack had a pretty good day in the scrimmage
yesterday. Yeah,
yesterday. So Stroud hits Brevin Jordan on that crosser, and then Jakob Johnson gets in there, and my goodness, he like a train just right through, opened up a hole for a little gain there for Dare Ogunbowale. Again, Stroud with a bunch of pressure right there in his face. He's able to get it out to Justin Watson, and it's one of those passes where he threw it, and the only thing that's going to catch it is Justin Watson sliding, and that's exactly what he did. Had a little Woody Marks run left, and Kamari Lassiter let him know that he was there for him. Then Henry To'o blitzed off the edge. Offense didn't pick it up. It was a sack. CJ said it wasn't a sack, and he got rid of it. And then Petrie was letting him know, and he said, I think a few times, you better watch the film, Seven. You better watch the film, Seven. So then CJ took a scramble for a first down, and this didn't
it looked like he could have got in the end zone on that. That was a very good use of the legs. Like, he was at least picking up the first down. He could have maybe like dove into the end zone.
Yeah, it was and it wasn't one of those like, oh, like he got sacked, they let him keep running. No, he just a great decision, took off. Little high for Dalton Schultz, and then a play action to Xavier Hutchinson. Hutchinson cut in, cut back out. Stroud found him, touchdown, and that was all she wrote for the first team on that one.
Well, then we got a punt to Barrios. Let's go back to the soup real quick here on SNL. Wags asks, did we get a timetable for CJGJ jersey? Well, or injury? We'll talk about that in a sec.
Initially, and then maybe we have to adjust it.
The drunk Texan says, is Mills low-key better than CJ? Food for thought.
Well, no.
He's having a good camp, though, but I will say
Mills has had a good camp, but Davis Mills has taken less than 10 snaps against the first team.
Yeah.
If any.
Yeah. He's not really going against the same, but Davis is looking like a good backup. Speaking of him, there was an awkward tuck rule kind of throw from him that kind of skipped on the ground, would have been called incomplete. Then he hit Barrios on an out. They rush to the line and run a quick run with British Brooks to pick up the first down. And then they throw to Barrios on the other sideline and he drops it. And then we get a punt. So we get CJ back out. Awesome. I think he caught it. Sideline tap from Christian Kirk.
On Stingley.
And then Woody Marks jammed up by Daniil Hunter, would have probably gotten his head knocked off in a game.
Yep.
Then a misfire to Kirk and a sack by Will Anderson. Tell me if you've heard that a few times.
Dominated Ariante Ursery.
So then we get to Stroud. They give him the ball in his own 15. This was victory. They were simulating a situation where they needed one first down to win the game. And this is why they like Dare Ogunbowale, because in these situations, like in practice, he just always handles them well, whether it's like a special team situation or offense, he just handles it well. So he ran up the middle, then he ran up the middle again, then he got the first down. He immediately got down, and it might not look like much, but I think like when you wonder, why is Dare Ogunbowale on this team? Why do they trust Dare Ogunbowale? Why is Dare Ogunbowale here? I think that one first down to win situation and the way that he handled it is the answer to that skepticism and those questions.
One of those plays too, Sheldon Rankins had hit the deck and fallen down. Dare, with the ball in his hand, jumped over Sheldon Rankins and kept running. Like, and you just don't see that very often. Like, Rankins was on the ground. It was literally like the drill they run with like the blocking pad. He just high stepped over him and kept going. And yeah, Dare Ogunbowale, certainly with Mixon and Chubb and Pierce not available to him, you got a lot of Dare Ogunbowale.
All right, then Davis Mills, red zone, a swing to Taylor, a tipped up in the air pass that falls in the chest of Jalen Knoll for a touchdown, followed up by a Cade Stover 2-point conversion. And then Speed got his hands on a pass intended for Mechie. And then when there's one drive left with CJ Stroud, Nico Collins on a slant TD, a quick spike at the one. They're simulating that. a one-handed fail by Dalton Schultz. Then you get the Lassiter PBU on Nico, the fade. This is where Caserio dapped him up. And then you just had a quick toss to Nico for a TD, 2-point conversion, whatever you want to call it, to end practice. And that was the scrimmage live out there. And I would say the biggest takeaways were obviously CJ Gardner-Johnson going down.
Yep.
I think that's obviously the biggest story. Xavier Hutchinson having a solid day, very, very solid day. And according to D'Amico Ryans, Nick Chubb will be okay. He actually came out on the back end of the scrimmage. He wasn't like dressed, but Nick Chubb will be okay according to D'Amico Ryans.
He said Nick Chubb is fine and he'll be back in a few days.
So this is where things get interesting, and this is why we might be kind of rolling on fumes right now, but it's fun to be here. So we actually got a blessing because after this, we were flying out of Charlotte, and in order to get to Charlotte from West Virginia, you have to go through mountains, and it's like 50 miles might take 2 hours because you're weaving so much and you're going through mountains. So we get to the airport, and we were going to do a CJ Gardner-Johnson video from the airport. The problem was the quality wouldn't have been as good. And looking back on it, the fact that we weren't able to get it off is good because a lot of news on CJ Gardner-Johnson happened after. Like the timestamp on that would have not really mattered. So we're waiting on our plane.
Well, just a couple of things before we get to the plane part of it. We were thinking about eating something there, and then we saw the world's busiest Panera Bread, and everyone looked miserable.
Oh, the world's slowest Panera Bread.
And they must have had one person making sandwiches, and 30 pissed off people. So I was like, okay, not eating there. And then we see that we get delayed in our connector in St. Louis. And we're like, all right, we'll just, Landry's like, hey, why don't you just eat in St. Louis? I'm like, yeah, that's actually a good point. We started looking at menus. We're looking at menus. And we're like, all right, cool, yeah.
Kyle on the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm
says, what's up, mofos? Headed to Choices W Casino in Oklahoma. I know Choctaw. I know Windstar. I do not know that one.
He corrected it.
Choctaw.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Good stuff there. Wag says, Landry, you love RBs. Could they bring back motor? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what these guys look like.
I'd like to find out about Pierce before I think about, guys getting cut off other teams.
Shout out to HDAV. So we're looking at this St. Louis flight, and it keeps getting pushed back to the point where we're going to have a 2-hour layover in St. Louis. So it's like, damn, that sucks. We're going to have a 2-hour layover in St. Louis. Well, kind of changed a little bit. So we get on the plane. There's a delay for me to get on the plane because some idiots in front of me had given their wrong boarding pass. Like they were doing a connecting flight, so they'd given their wrong boarding pass. I guess it scanned the number. So they thought there were duplicate people that had given the that were booked. They finally solved that mystery. That's like a 20-minute delay. And then the chaos really happens. So this lady is just, she has a big ass bag and she's trying to jam it in the overhead like about as hard as possible. I'm on the window seat. There's 2 people next to me and there's 3 ladies behind me. And she's trying to jam it like as hard as possible, as reckless as possible. She's moving a guy's bags. Just no respect from this lady.
None.
Well, the suitcase falls and it lands on the head of one of the flight attendants, and it kind of nicks the head of the lady behind me. So the flight attendant goes down. She seems all right. Like she didn't black out or anything from what anyone in the vicinity saw, but she stays down. She stays down for about a minute. And all of a sudden, there's a concussion diagnosis and the EMT's being called. And they say it's against the law to fly with 3 flight attendants. You got to have 4. And people are coming up to question us, how long was she blacked out? And we're like, I didn't see her blacked out, but she can go on with her gangster if she wants to, because I guarantee you she's going to be getting paid and working a little bit. So she walks off the plane and they send us off the plane.
Initially, the paramedics were just going to come check her out and maybe she stays. And then it took them forever to get there. And then it became clear she was not staying.
So then they send us off the plane. They have us leave our stuff. And then it becomes apparent that all these people with connecting flights aren't going to make it. So all of a sudden there's a big line to like rebook flights. And as soon as it becomes evident that we're not going to be able to get to Houston because the St. Louis flight's going to leave, Cody goes on the plane and I go up and I get us flights out at 5 a.m. from St. Louis. So they gave us 2 flights. I said, my stepbrother's on the plane or whatever. And they gave me, they gave us those flights. So we changed our flights and we ended up getting to St. Louis at 11:30. Someone who's a viewer who lives in St. Louis named Charles, he picked us up from the airport, took us to a bar in St. Louis. We closed that bar down, and then we went back to the airport and just killed time to our 5 a.m. So that was kind of our journey yesterday. 4 hours through the mountains, 8 hours in the airport, a St. Louis dive bar, and the flight attendant getting knocked out. Now, amidst all that, though, when it got really fun. And this is where it becomes relevant, because as soon as we are about to get on the plane, first there's like a little bit of news. Cody says, hey, Anthony Richardson got hurt. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what else is new? That's kind of something that happens. Then we get a tweet from Aaron Wilson that says CJ Gardner-Johnson has torn his ACL and everything is bad for the Texans. And all of a sudden, my timeline, you're seeing the reaction. There's conversation about CJ Gardner-Johnson. And the report is that CJ Gardner-Johnson had torn his ACL. And this is as we're like sitting there delayed for our flight.
Yeah. I mean, on the way to the airport in Charlotte, like we talked about it in the car, like, oh, what if he misses time, this, that. And while we're waiting for CJ Gardner-Johnson, the Chargers have their left tackle get hurt, get carted off, and get diagnosed while we're waiting for CJ Gardner-Johnson. So it's like, when is this news ever coming out? And then boom, Aaron hits us with the, hey, torn ACL.
But then we get the Ian Rappaport tweet.
The Ian Rappaport, not so fast, my friend.
Ian Rappaport says the ACL is intact. CJ Gardner-Johnson avoided the worst case scenario. More info coming. Good news for the Texans. And this was right after Aaron said that he tore his ACL. So then.
And then people are piling on. You got Rossini, you got Schefter, you got other insiders. It was not a torn ACL.
And then we look at this, and Aaron, like right after the Rappaport, says that they're still conducting more tests for safety CJ Gardner-Johnson to determine the full extent of damage, with a source, saying the ACL is not torn. And this was right after he said the ACL was torn. He said he's expected to be sidelined, though, for an undetermined amount of time. It is a knee injury. Team hopes will be able to return. And I guess the original ACL report is gone. Yeah, that's gone.
Page no longer exists.
Yeah, so the original ACL report is gone from ADA. But Aaron reports the ACL. Ian Rappaport says, not so fast, my friend. And that's not a mistake. That is definitely like a direct response to the report. Then it gets piled on, and the Texans get, I guess, goodish news that it's not an ACL, but I do think he's probably going to miss a little bit of time, and we can get into the impact of that as well. But that wasn't it. But I thought that was an interesting little
it's
back and forth.
I mean, you can't get that wrong. That can't happen. Especially when multiple insiders come out right after and they just boom, they got the other part of the story. And then you say, oh, actually not torn. They can't get that wrong. That's just bad.
Yeah, it was a tough one for Aaron. It was a tough one.
Patrick, good conspiracy theory. I don't think so. I think sometimes mistakes are made, and that was clearly a situation where a mistake was made.
Oh no, Rich Boy, is this true?
So then of course, people are, some people text us, some people are DMing us. I think a couple of listeners were like, hey, Cody, if Aaron Wilson said you're healthy, get your affairs in order. It's like, yep, that's what happens sometimes. That's what happens sometimes. So beyond the Aaron issue, it seems like there's a chance CJ Gardner-Johnson is playing again this season. Doesn't seem like it's anytime soon. MJ Stewart's the body that I feel like is initially going to get his opportunities. It sucks that Jalen Reed's not healthy, the rookie safety from Penn State, because he would be in the mix, I would think, or it would at least move him up the depth chart. But they have a pretty thin safety situation, just losing the body that is CJ Gardner-Johnson, regardless of the level of player that he is.
Yeah, my thing is this though, like even if it were a significant injury, I think the Texans defense is going to be elite with CJ Gardner-Johnson or without CJ Gardner-Johnson. I think the position has so much in front of it and around it that I think the Texans defense is going to be fine. Like, you're going to have to overcome injuries. I think they would be fine, and they would be able to handle their business. Obviously, he makes them better, but there's been a couple of things being said about this that I don't understand. And the real confusing thing for me, and I've seen a couple of people say, well, now you move Jalen Petrie back to safety. And if you're going to say that, you might as well just say you think D'Amico Ryans is an idiot. And I don't think D'Amico Ryans is an idiot when it comes to defense. Matter of fact, I think he's one of the best defensive minds and defensive coaches in football. And 2 years ago in that role, D'Amico Ryans benched Jalen Petrie. So I don't think that they're going to do that. And then they put him in the role that he's currently in, which, by the way, he's not even working out with the safeties. He has his own line. Like, we keep tabs on that line for a reason. That's what Jalen Petrie does. So the suggestion that you could move Jalen Petrie back to safety, I think, is idiotic. And unless there's just like a massive emergency, I think that's crazy. I think this gives an opportunity for Russell Yeast, and I think they like MJ Stewart. And I'm hearing the name Justin Simmons. I don't think you need to do that quite yet, and even consider the Justin Simmons thing. I think you're fine at safety. I think you're going to be okay. But the notion that now all of a sudden, because you miss CJ Gardner-Johnson, you move Jalen Petrie back to a role that he struggled heavily in, and move him away from a role that he's kind of thriving in, to the point where they rewarded him for that role, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I don't think we've reached that level of emergency. I think it's one of the dumbest things that I've heard people who follow this team and cover this team say. I think it's actually dumb. And I think it's kind of acting as if D'Amico Ryans is an idiot, and he's not.
Well, you can follow the team, and then sometimes you can follow the team.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that Yeast is a good player. I think Yeast, I mean, he's done some good things. The other suggestion that I'm seeing, and I don't know like where this comes from, because I talked to him yesterday. I talked to the young man yesterday, Jalen Smith, and I told him, I was like, us dumbass draft guys, like we thought, we assumed that Lassiter was going to be an inside guy, and he's been outside the whole time. And we kind of assumed the same about you. And he's been CB3, and he's been on the outside. As a matter of fact, when they have three corners out there, like if you're watching practice, Jalen Smith is on the outside and Kamari Lassiter's on the inside opposite of Petrie. So like there's like talk. It's almost like the draft. It's almost like it's post-draft day, because he hasn't been in the Petrie line at all.
Nope.
He hasn't lined up on the inside, if ever. And when they have three corners, Jalen Smith's on the outside. So move Jalen Smith inside and move Jalen Petrie out that's crazy. That's not based on what's actually happening. It's going to be a plug and play. It's going to be MJ Stewart. It's going to be Yeast, and their defense is going to do what their defense does and tries to do. That's it. And if they go get somebody for that role, that's fine. But the notion that they're going to now move Jalen Smith inside or Jalen Petrie to safety is dumb as hell.
You almost dropped an F-bomb there, bud.
Yeah, I'm not.
Did your daughter run by in the hallway? You didn't want to say it out loud.
I didn't want to decrease the point I was thinking.
Look, plug and play plug and play was the move when we thought CJ Gardner-Johnson wasn't playing football again. Plug and play is absolutely the move if there's a chance down the road he's going to play. They like MJ Stewart. We've talked about this. I mean, when they were doing OTAs and mini camps, even when CJ Gardner-Johnson was there, MJ Stewart was on the field a bunch. They put MJ Stewart on the field a couple of different times with the first team as well. Like, they like MJ Stewart, just like they liked Eric Murray last year. They had Eric Murray to be the backup when Jimmie Ward went down. So I believe initially it's going to be MJ Stewart. If they add somebody, it's going to be somebody to the back end of the room, not necessarily to be, knocking on MJ Stewart's reps. And then hopefully Jalen Reed gets healthy here in the next few weeks, sooner rather than later, and get on the field.
Safety. He wasn't even an inside guy. Like, they had him playing that true safety, and he looked good. So
yeah. So hopefully you
his
get him.
His injury is supposedly not serious, right?
Well,
according to who?
That's right. I should be careful. Jalen Reed might be in trouble because Aaron's the one that I saw say the ankle injury. So hopefully, whatever the injury is, he's back sooner rather than later, and they're not having to call family members or anything.
Swarm.
Trill asks, did they move Titus and the line look better? He looked fine at right tackle, honestly. Looked fine.
I actually feel like he's been the best right tackle in camp.
Kyle says, are there any players that will get cut from other teams we should immediately pick up? Love the show. Not really. I don't have, like, as far as positions, I think they're always going to have their head on the swivel when it comes to O-linemen. Maybe they're open to safety. I think Yeast has looked really good. I think Yeast has looked good, and I thought Jalen Reed looked good, assuming that he's ready to go. I don't know that they're really in the corner market. I think they're fine at corner. Like, we thought it would be corner. Corners are looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like no, actually, I think they're good because you got Smith and Bryant.
And Maulet's out there. He's kind of more of an inside guy. And then Bryant, yeah. So I think they're straight at corner.
Yeah, you obviously have Stingley and Lassiter on the outside, and then Smith and Bryant. And Bryant, I guess in a pinch, they've mentioned this before, could play safety, but you want him primarily playing that nickel corner spot.
And Knuckles says, let me shut up because I damn sure didn't make it to practice to see if Yeast or Stewart are worth it. No, I mean, dude, the conversation's a good conversation. It's not dumb. It's just these guys. I think they like these guys and they're playing well. It's not dumb at all. Trill Kick X says, what rookies do you think has the best Saturday? What rookie has the best Saturday? I think Woody Marks is going to have a good day. I think where you need to watch Woody Marks, though, if you want to, like, be real inside, like, nerd, like we typically like to nerd out, watch how he covers kicks, because I think that's going to be something that they're really going to want him to do consistently. So I would say Woody Marks is going to look good. Jalen Smith, if he's out there, I'd like to see how that young man performs.
Yep.
It's a damn shame that Reed's not going to be out there. I was looking forward to seeing what perhaps he could do. I don't know if they're going to play Ursery or not, but Ursery's, I would get some time.
I would play him if I was them
at left tackle or right, because the reality is, like, he's the starting right tackle when the O-line is healthy, but he's going to be a left tackle, and we don't know. Cam Robinson going 17 seems a little bit far-fetched.
I'd play him at both over the course of the game. I'd let him be the first left tackle, and then I'd let him be the second right tackle. And I would think we're going to see a pretty good amount to Higgins and Knoll too.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up that we didn't get to see, because I thought that Keontae Hamilton could have been one of those, like, preseason heroes, and Reed. Like, those were two guys who were having really good practices that we might not get to see all preseason. Kyle Nance on the soup. Hell, bro. If y'all are any viewers in Minneapolis, grab a beer. I'm there every week. Okay. Mini polishes and grab a beer. Yeah, we're not in many, but we would. And shout out to Charles again for coming through. Just hey, I'll pick you up from the airport. We'll go drink. We went to a nice dive bar. It was great. It was a great place. I loved it. St. Louis has some good beer.
Oh yeah.
So we were talking about CJ Gardner-Johnson. Is there anything else you want to put on this? Because they're obviously the plane ride from hell's not over. If you thought the news cycle at this position was done with CJ Gardner-Johnson, we've covered how we think they'll attack it. We've covered the back and forth between Rappaport and Aaron, and then Diana Rossini piling in and all this type of stuff. Is there anything else we want to talk about with the CJ Gardner-Johnson?
It is pretty strange that now twice in his career, CJ Gardner-Johnson has been carted off the field And the thought was he had a very, very serious knee injury, and it turned out that it wasn't as serious as initially thought. And because that happened to him in Detroit a few years ago. So it's like that's a very weird thing to have happen twice in your career with no actual. So we went through the injury history when we were looking at it. We were talking about it, like no significant knee history with him, but 2 times he's been carted off and avoided massively terrible knee situations.
Yuppers. And then we get this. Because immediately you wonder, well, what does this mean for Jimmie Ward? Is old Jimmie Ward going to be a part of this football team? And I think Jimmie Ward's a really good football player. But then Jimmie Ward, as he awaits his court date, which is
the 13th,
Tuesday. It's Tuesday or Wednesday. It's either August 12th or 13th, one of those days.
I believe it's the 13th.
Jimmie Ward gets arrested. And not only does he get arrested, he kind of gets doxxed by Kunkel. Kunkel accidentally puts up the the full thing with the address, deletes it, and then but that's public record, so it kind of happens. But Jimmie Ward gets arrested. They reported why, right? Because I heard what someone said.
Yeah. So Aaron's reporting.
Aaron said this, right? Yes. Okay. So he said this publicly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Aaron.
I asked him
4 hours ago, Aaron Wilson, Jimmie Ward processed out of Montgomery County Jail after overnight sanction for positive test for alcohol. So as part of him being out, awaiting everything with his initial legal situation, he was not supposed to be drinking alcohol.
So now he gets arrested as the court date awaits. And you got to wonder at this point, like, I mean, I don't want to say that his stuff had kind of been swept under the rug, but they were kind of letting it play out. But if you can't just avoid alcohol when you're not supposed to 5 days away from your court date, I don't know if even D'Amico Ryans with his relationship with Jimmie Ward and everything, like, I think this probably changes the way that they're going to approach the Jimmie Ward thing. One would think.
The lawyer told Aaron Wilson that Jimmie was unaware that he was not allowed to be drinking alcohol while he was out. And I don't know. I mean, I know people that have had legal issues. A couple people told me they make it very clear to you that you're not supposed to be drinking alcohol. So there's that excuse doesn't hold up. That, oh, I didn't know. That excuse doesn't hold up. And that's part of the reason they put you in the pokey for the night to kind of get you to pay attention.
I mean, if he didn't know, good for him. But I mean, that's probably good defense. I don't know. I'm assuming that maybe they think that the initial incident had to do with alcohol, so that's why they said it. But typically when you get out on bond, they're going to lay out what you can and can't do, whether you can't leave the house, whether you can't go to a bar. Typically, like in these situations, there's like a protective order where you can't get within X amount of feet of the person. You can't call or text. So I'm sure it'll probably be pretty easy for them to show if this was a thing, like whether it's in writing or whether it's something that the judge said. But it's regardless, it's not if he wasn't supposed to and this happens, that's not a good look for him.
If you're Jimmie Ward, you were supposed to just be off the radar until the legal process played out, and if you're hoping to play football, plays out in your favor. This is not a good job by you to stay off the radar. You showed up in the middle of, I mean, I looked at you after CJ Gardner-Johnson's injury. We were talking about it. I was like, wow, if Jimmie could come back, that'd be a big deal for them. And then this popped up a few hours later, and you're like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, this has been a really bad stretch for Jimmie Ward. Like right when you think, okay, there's life, like there's a role, like you almost like need, I don't want to say need, but like Jimmie Ward makes a lot of sense now, you know? And then this happens. So it's just kind of the thing. And then we had Kenyon Green, by the way, go in with the third team, get a couple penalties, and then get hurt. So
well, where we see that?
There's a lot going on that plane.
On the same day CJ Gardner-Johnson gets hurt, Kenyon Green gets hurt. CJ Gardner-Johnson's injury, serious, TBD on if Kenyon Green was hurt.
Yep.
Because sometimes if it doesn't look good, then maybe there's like a look up and, oh, my arm.
So that's where we are with that. And, oh, by the way, the Texans have a game tomorrow.
Preseason game.
There will be a game tomorrow. I'm going to stream at night, I think, after the game. Consume that. I'm a special 10:30 edition since we didn't have a 10:30 edition yesterday. I'll still have the stream today. I'm assuming a nap will be in your future, Cody. It's been a long day, long journey.
Yeah, I slept most of the day up until this point.
Yeah, probably use a little one. I think the baby's asleep, so I might get in that. And then tomorrow we have our fantasy draft too. So we got a lot going on.
Our fantasy draft that while we're in West Virginia, guys who've known about this for months are like, okay, go. Like,
yeah,
idiot.
Yeah, pathetic.
So real bad showing by those guys.
So we'll see what happens. Good news for the Texans, we think, about CJ Gardner-Johnson. Bad news about Jimmie Ward. In training camp, we got a couple weeks left, and we got games starting tomorrow. So subscribe, like, ride along. We appreciate everyone for rolling through, all the listeners. Shout out to Charles for saving the day yesterday. Much appreciation. Mushroom on the super chat says he's 30 minutes behind. Football tomorrow, finally. Yep. Yes, sir. One sleep till a game. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, ride along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Gracias.